If you have ever lived like this, no longer poor, no longer without resources, and yet still moving through life, as if everything good could be taken away at any moment, then do not be too quick to call that humility. Buying something good makes you feel guilty. Resting too long makes you feel ashamed. When someone treats you with tenderness, your first reaction is not relief, it is discomfort, as if being cared for is somehow dangerous. A lot of people are not unable to live a good life. A lot of people are still carrying a child inside them who does not believe good things are meant for them. Leor first saw this clearly during the winter in a place called Salt Gold Harbor. It was a rich port city. Ships arrived carrying spices, metals, fine cloth, wine, and all the polished things that make people believe they have finally risen in the world. The streets glowed at night. Shop windows were full of things designed to look like reward. Leor had once believed that reaching a place like this would end his sense of lack. He was 34. He had a good apartment, a respectable income, a life that from the outside no longer looked scarce. And yet, his whole body still moved, like someone expecting deprivation. At restaurants, his eyes went to the price before they went to desire. In clothing shops, his hand would reach toward the better fabric, then quietly pull back. If he slept late on a Sunday, guilt rose inside him, as if he had been caught stealing. If someone tried to care for him too generously, he became uneasy. It was as if some hidden law inside him kept saying, "Do not get used to this. Do not reach too far. Do not ask for too much. Do not become comfortable. You are not built for that kind of life." He thought this was simply personality, discipline, modesty, restraint, until one afternoon, a single white peach exposed the whole structure. He was in the market. A fruit seller held up a pale white peach and said it was the first of the season, sweet as summer. Leor looked at the price and almost put it back immediately. Not because he could not afford it, because the first sentence that rose inside him was this: "I do not need something this good." The sentence passed through him like a tiny crack in glass, because suddenly he understood that he had been saying versions of it to himself for years. I do not need the good version. I do not need the gentle version. I do not need the better room, the softer life, the more beautiful thing, the easier breath. Something ordinary is enough. Less is enough. I should not take too much. I should not make trouble. I should not look like someone who expects to be well treated. He bought the peach anyway. Then, without fully knowing why, he walked through the oldest part of the harbor to a narrow lane where almost no one went unless they meant to. At the end of the lane stood a very small shop with no proper sign. Inside, an old woman sat by the window, repairing a child's coat. She was known for mending cloth. Some people said she was even better at mending the places and people they kept pretending were not torn. Leor stood in the doorway. The woman did not look up at first. She only asked, "What have you come to repair?" Leor almost said, "Nothing." But what came out instead was this: "I do not know why, but I think I have never learned how to be good to myself." The woman raised her eyes then and studied him for a long time. "That is not because you do not know how," she said. "It is because there is still a child inside you who believes every good thing must be paid for with suffering." The sentence went straight into him, because suddenly he remembered love had not always been absent, but often it had been conditional. Do well, then you can have something. Behave, then you are worth warmth. Do not ask for too much. Do not forget how hard life is. Do not expect comfort without earning it first. Over time, these lessons had settled into his body. He became easy to manage. He learned how to be small, how not to ask, how not to need too much, how to make himself convenient, how to take pride in wanting less than he really wanted. From the outside, it looked like maturity. Inside, it was compression. The old woman set the needle down and said, "The man standing here in front of me is an adult. But every time the question becomes rest, pleasure, money, love, receiving, being treated gently, the one making the decision is still the child who learned to shrink. Lior stood very still, because some hidden weight he had been carrying for years had finally taken shape. He asked the old woman what he was supposed to do about it. She said, "First, stop confusing self-nurturing with buying brighter objects. A lot of people hear the words, 'Take care of yourself,' and run to the marketplace. That is not repair. That is decorating the wound. Real nourishment is not consumption. It is re-raising." From then on, Lior returned to her shop every week. She did not give him complicated theories. She just walked him slowly through the layers. The first layer was the body. She told him to treat sleep as sacred, not as collapse, not as a leftover. A nervous system that never fully comes down from alarm cannot feel abundance, even in a palace. She told him to eat without performing distraction, to notice what entered his body, to stop feeding himself industrial things that filled the stomach but never actually cared for the self. She told him to breathe deeply until the body received the message that this moment was safe. At first, Lior did not understand what any of this had to do with wealth. The old woman said, "A person whose nervous system is still living like a refugee will not feel rich, even if he sits on a mountain of gold." The second layer was money. Lior began to realize that the deepest pain in spending was not a lack of money. It was shame. A good shirt felt excessive. A better room felt indulgent. A beautiful meal felt like too much. The old woman gave him a small practice. Once a week, buy one thing that truly nourishes your life. Not to impress anyone, not to signal status, not to prove success, only to say, "This helps me live more gently, and I allow myself to receive it." At first, even buying better cheese made him uneasy, but slowly, he began to distinguish between buying to fill a hole and choosing something that genuinely cared for him. The third layer was emotion. This was the hardest one, because Lior discovered that the cruelest voice in his life was not outside him. It was his own. When he failed, his first impulse was not understanding. It was accusation. When he felt weak, his first response was not kindness. It was contempt. He was patient with friends, tender with others, generous in his listening, but inside himself, he was ruled by an overseer. The old woman asked him, "If someone you loved were living exactly as you are living, would you speak to him the way you speak to yourself?" Lior said nothing, because the answer was obvious. "No." "Then why?" she asked. "Do you permit yourself to live inside that voice?" That question changed him, because he began to understand that unworthiness was not just a belief. It was a language system, a tone, a way of talking inwardly, a habit of pushing himself down every time he tried to rise. The fourth layer was thought and spirit. This one unfolded more slowly. He began cutting away the streams of information that trained him to compare, compete, and feel perpetually behind. He read more slowly. He chose deeper things. He began stepping out of the timeline the world had handed him. What age should mean, what success should look like, when a person should have enough, when a life should be settled. These voices had once nailed him in place. He removed them one by one, and then he learned something else. Surrender, not as defeat, as the end of unnecessary fighting. He stopped treating life as a machine that could be fully controlled if only he tried hard enough. He began letting the river be the river, the wind be the wind, time be time. And when he stopped gripping so violently, things began to move. Months later, he returned to the fruit market. He stood again in front of the white peaches. This time, his hand did not pull back, not because he had become extravagant, because for once, he did not let shame block desire at the door. He bought the peach, washed it, sat by the window, and ate it slowly. The juice ran over his fingers, and suddenly, he wanted to cry. Not because the peach was the best thing he had ever tasted, but because in that quiet moment, he finally understood something his whole life had tried to deny. To be treated well does not have to be purchased with suffering first. No one was watching him. No one applauded. But he knew something inside him had actually changed. Years later, someone asked him what it truly meant to nourish yourself well. Lior thought for a long time. Then he said, "It is not buying more. It is no longer using old scarcity to humiliate the person you are now. It is the day you finally dare to believe that gentle treatment was never something you had to earn by breaking yourself first." This is Otherworld Radio. Real abundance does not begin when the world finally gives you something beautiful. It begins when you turn back and pick up the child inside you, who is still trembling, still afraid, still convinced that good things belong to other people. When the bleeding of inner scarcity begins to stop, light can enter places that money alone could never reach.